this is how everybody wins. But you're right. You got to have a conversation. They got to trust you. You got to put all your cards on the table. You can't hide something. Talk about tax benefits. Talk about installment loans. But I believe there's going to be lots of one rental at a time fans that buy multifamily because Velocity offers a 90% CLTV, combined loan to value. It's going to happen. Alrighty, folks, more and more one rental at a time fans are realizing that the power of the 50-40-10 is really the tool of choice. And now we have more and more people going after apartment buildings. I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago, we talked about a gentleman named Steven who is looking to use the 50-40-10 to buy buildings in Tulsa. Now we have find that there is another one rental at a time fan, Lionel, who is looking at a $4.2 million apartment building, currently putting together an offer for what is 50-40-10. So let's talk about the numbers. Let's talk about how this makes sense. And again, a $4.2 million apartment building, 50-40-10 means Lionel would put down $420,000. Velocity would come in for $2.1 million, and the seller would carry the rest in second position. Yep. Steven, before we get into the details, please do the marketing spiel so we don't get in trouble.
Although I work very happily for Velocity Mortgage Capital, all the ideas and topics discussed on this channel are that of my own. So let's get another good one going.
Yeah, so this is really fun for me because I knew this was going to happen. Steven, a few weeks ago in Tulsa, kind of took the bull by the horn and said, hey, the 50-40-10 allows me to give any seller 3 options: a very low cash price, a very high seller only carry,
right,
and then 50-40-10 kind of splits the difference.
Right.
Seller takes 40%, they get 60% in cash.
Yep.
You can negotiate a lower rate on the entire debt picture.
Yep.
You, the buyer, come in with 10%. 50-40-10 is going to buy lots of apartment buildings because you and I keep talking about it. So one more time, talk about the flexibility of the 90% CLTV because you are the only game in town. And then just talk about how the negotiation works.
I mean, mainly as far as the negotiations, it's just having a more meaningful conversation with the decision maker, seller usually. So if you could sometimes get past the listing agent, if you can, because sometimes they don't grasp the concept either, and so they can't explain it effectively to the seller. Now everybody's confused. So having the meaningful conversation with the decision maker is key, and it's just mainly just a couple of vital questions. One, do you need all the proceeds from the sale of your property? If the answer to that is no, then you got something to build off of. And then now it's just kind of figuring out what's comfortable for him. I mean, ideally 50-40-10, but again, you could restructure to where I've done a 60-30-10, a 42-48-10, you know what I mean? So it just depends on where you can kind of fit it all in and make sense for all parties involved. But any combination of my first mortgage, along with typically the second or seller in the case of a purchase, has enough equity, can combine with my first to a maximum of 90% that allows the buyer to only have to come in with 10% down. So you can use it for both 1 to 4 unit non-owner residential, but in this case, this one's I don't know the exact number of units, but it's over 7 unit multifamily in California. I don't want to give out any more information.
No, that's fine. No, that's good.
But yeah, he's in the beginning stages. This particular one rental at a time borrower just wanted to kind of get the details as far as the rate.
Yeah.
So then you start to calculate and plug it into his spreadsheet and see if this all works. So he said, this is some interesting terms. This might work. So he's still in negotiations with the seller to kind of see what kind of terms he's wanting to get for the price.
Yeah.
And then he's now going to plug it in.
Yeah, the 50-40-10 is such a powerful option because I think Steven, the guy buying in Tulsa, I think it was, really highlighted that it's 3 offers. So let's take this building, for example, $4.2 million. I know nothing about it, but I've done enough deals where the math is going to make sense. Right. Let's say, for example, this building is actually listed at $5 million. Let's say it's listed at $5 million.
Right.
And if you're going to really tackle this from 3 options, you could come in and say, okay, option 1, I'm going to cash you out. But given today's interest rates, given today's lending environment, given today's down payment requirement, I can't give you $5 million. I can only give you $3.6 million, right? If you want walk away money, it's 3.6, not 5.
Right.
And then on the other side of that is if you're willing to carry 90%, because let's say you own it free and clear in this example, there is opportunity for the seller to carry the whole thing. You don't even need a bank, right? If the building's owned free and clear, the seller could, in theory, carry it with as little as 5% down if they want it.
Right.
Let's say in this example, you're willing to do seller carry at $5 million, right? You're willing to write $5 million. I'll come in with 10%, $500,000.
Yep.
And you, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, carry $4.5 million. Right. Those are the two examples. Neither of those are very likely. Very unlikely you're going to get a multifamily owner who's probably had the building for decades to sell it at a distressed price of 3.6 or whatever I said.
Right.
Equally so, it's very unlikely they're going to let you buy the building with 90% carry. It's too much leverage. That's why the 50-40-10 can split the difference. Instead of doing 5 million, you're going to offer, in this case, 4.2. You're going to tell the seller, hey, you're going to walk away with 60% of the cash, and all you have to do is carry 40%. But now you, the buyer, you get to go in and say, okay, Steven, your 50% is at, I don't know, call it 8%. I'm going to get the seller to take the 40% back at 4%. And now you have a blended interest rate of 6.25 or whatever the math says. This is how everybody wins. But you're right. You got to have a conversation. They got to trust you. You got to put all your cards on the table. You can't hide something. Talk about tax benefits. Talk about installment loans. But I believe there's going to be lots of One Rental at a Time fans that buy multifamily because Velocity offers a 90% CLTV, combined loan to value. It's going to happen.
Oh, no, I 100% agree with you. Not if, but when. It's just got to be the right circumstances. But it's just a series of math problems, a couple of questions that need to be answered. But when you find the right fit, man, and I've done close to 30 of these, so they're out there. It's just, you got to do the work. But yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, we've talked about it multiple times. We did one for a lumberjack landlord that just turned out perfect for everybody. I mean, rates were a little bit lower back then, but man, did it turn out so well especially for the sellers. You know what I mean? Because that one was a nice one. He just rented back, to them. They got to stay in the property. They were on limited income because one of them was disabled. So that one turned out nice. But yeah, I agree with you, Mike. I think people just have to kind of make the offer, or at least present that on the table, because I think most sellers don't know that that's an option. So
very few sellers are going to sell it at a depressed price, and very few are going to carry it 90%.
Right.
That's why 50-40-10 is so powerful. You kind of get the best of both worlds. You get a bunch of cash now. You get a secured position.
Right.
You get something you could pass on to your heirs because the note is transferable.
Right.
At passing.
I was wondering if there's another. I don't know of any channel that would be speaking to sellers. I don't know if there's anybody on YouTube who's got a channel that's specifically to sellers of properties. I don't know what kind of vehicle or kind of channel that would be, but we just need to get this message out to sellers, I think, because they're the ones that drive this thing.
You know what? Let's talk to the real estate agents. Lots of real estate agents watch this channel. You may have a listing.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be an apartment building. So if you have a listing that's aging out, right? Days on market, 45, 60, 80 days, but you know that the seller has a lot of equity, I would actually talk about the 50-40-10, because if you could advertise it, think about this, right? You have a building that can't sell for $1 million, whatever the number is.
I understand.
All you're getting is disrespectful offers because this guy Zuber keeps telling people to write them, and all you keep getting is 600K offers on $1 million property. What if you were the listing agent and said, you know what, my seller is interested in doing a 50-40-10. They'll carry 40%. I think that's going to get a lot more offers and a lot more traction. So if you're agents out there, let's do that.
Oh, agreed. I mean, it's just logical to think that if you put that in your listing remarks, that possible seller combine financing with as little as 10% down, I'm pretty sure that would increase some traffic. So
you're going to get a lot more offers and at a higher dollar amount.
Agreed. So I think that would be a valuable tool, at least something that most realtors probably don't realize right now that they have as an option, because anything stale or stagnant, especially in this current rate environment, this is another tool that'll kind of help to move some of the, some of that backlog of some of those properties that just can't because of the rate environment or whatever other restrictions. So no, it's been fun, and it's just trying to find the right, not platform, but the right circumstance and the right deal for us to kind of plug this in with. But I've got a couple in process right now, not through one rental at a time, but just through my other channels, because the company does like blast emails to brokers and such. So I definitely have a couple in the works. But yeah, I would love to get one more, or I should say more, for one rental at a time channel.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
I know with fairly good certainty, we're going to see multiple apartment buildings go down 50, 40, 10. Now I think we can have agents unstuck inventory. Because again, the people that are active today are investors, right? Homeowners are basically out with these rates.
Agreed.
So if you're an agent, you got a seller with a bunch of equity. Talk about the 50, 40, 10. It's really a win-win situation. And if somebody had questions about it, if they were an agent or an investor, how do they reach out?
Again, just to my email right below, sdao@velocitymortgage.com. In the subject line, please put the acronym ORaaT to make it past the firewall. In the body of the email, maybe a brief description of what you're looking for. Address would be super helpful, or at least city and state where you're looking to, get financing to ensure I can lend there. Mid-FICO score is also super helpful, and then best phone number to reach you at, and typically 24, 48 hours. This week's been a little tough because it's the end of the month, so if you've been trying to reach me, I try to reply, within 24, 48 hours, but sometimes either you get buried in the quarantine because you didn't follow instructions with the acronym. Right. Or I apologize. I've been trying to get to all my emails, but couple of nights I'm like, man, it's 11:30. I got to get to sleep. So
gotta get after it.
I gotta call you the next day. So, but yeah, definitely shoot me an email, and typically I'll be in touch.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you.